knowing that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams is all they want for us is to live our life happy, free, and fully expressed.
Welcome to the Huffing Spirit Podcast, where we take you from the sacred to the profane, from the serious to the silly, from the outer to the inner, and from the guru back to you. Join your playful podcast guides, Alex Hindley and Natalie as they bring you back to a grounded and more authentic approach to spirituality.
All right, welcome back to the Huffing Spirit Podcast. Drea, conscious mother, thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Of course. Okay, so there are a million things that we want to launch into, but I always like to ask the question. The first one is like, who is Drea? Like, who is Drea in this iteration, like right now? I love this question. Who is Drea? She is the conduit of God's source creator here to create new earth now and be a living embodiment of what it means to create heaven on earth. That I just want to pause for a moment. Everybody listening, just take that in. That's such a beautiful statement. Thank you.
Hell of an elevator pitch.
Yeah. Okay.
Like Natalie said, we're so excited to have you on. I have a little bit of experience with medicine, but haven't been facilitating, but I've been in the space for over 10 years and with the different medicine. So I'm very curious to learn about you and the medicine and embodied leadership, which is a thing I'm just fascinated by right now.
Awesome. Yeah. Happy to go into all of it. What questions do you have? Okay. So do you want to, let's go with the journey that you just came out of. Okay. Like what you just got out of.
As much as you can share.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you already know that it is sort of like Fight Club. Yeah. I love that. It's Fight Club. What we're talking about is the bridge experience. It's like Fight Club, an ayahuasca ceremony, an escape room at Burning Man of personal development. So what we do in this 5-day container is take the whole workshop seminar of personal development framework, throw it completely out the window, and invite our participants, our students, to be the workshop. So it really is putting it in your hands, the experience. And so what I can share is it's an embodied leadership training that focuses more on the body. And that is what makes us a little different from other trainings out there. And a lot of it has to do with the mind, but we can't beat our biology. So once we can understand that our body, our animal is always speaking, we create awareness. And so as a guardian coach, which this is led by my mentors, Alexi Panos and Preston Smiles. My job as a guardian coach is to just watch like a hawk and notice what happens to the body when it is at the threshold of possibility. Wow. So does it shrink? Does it cower? Does it run? Does it hide? So we identify the conditional response. Like your first and second, is it fight, flight, freeze, or appease? Yeah. Create awareness through direct feedback. And then it's their job to apply the feedback within the container and play. And there's like a whole emphasis on play. If you watch any of my videos, we can't really share too much of what's the deep part of what. Oh no, that would be like sharing your secret sauce, right? And like what we do is we bring people through pretty much what an emotional roller coaster is, to invite capacity and range. So we go really deep with the emotions, with your trauma, what happens to your somatic body, and then we bring it up, play with dance, with games, with connection. And so these almost 100 participants are traveling together in what feels like a medicine journey without medicine. And they just get their hearts cracked wide open, and you just become a whole different person. So I've been doing this for almost 6 years now. And before, I was this woman, a girl actually, hiding, afraid of herself. I didn't even know how to even be authentic. And I had this mask on. And it was through this experience where I really got to learn who I was and to be unapologetically me.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so, do you want to take us back a little bit of who Drea was before and your journey? And I will say, like, I have followed you for probably over a year now, and there's a lot of beautiful parallels in our lives. Like, I'm a healer in the energetics and body work too, but I'm also a single mom. So I really, when I started following you, what led me to you and what I felt really like a deep connection was your ability to be so vulnerable in those moments of being a single mom and being a healer and all of those struggles. And I was like, girl, I see you. I am in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go all the way back.
Yeah. Let's go.
I lost my mother when I was 2 years old. And I didn't quite process this until a year ago. My father abandoned me at the time of her death. So he couldn't handle the grief. He took off to the Philippines, where we were from. We had just moved to California from Seoul, South Korea.
Wow.
And 2 months later, and honestly, I think she just had some type of like vaccine reaction because she was moving into a new country and we were being processed through the US Army. So they're just handing out vaccines like nothing, right? Just like,
Yeah. Here, just take this, try it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it overloaded her system. She had myocarditis and had a heart attack at 25. And I was just 2 years old. And so been really in this big process of healing my mother and father wound and really exploring like conscious mother. That's such a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And it was given to me at the time of my son's birth 6 years ago. And given to me because I was just on the internet looking for a name that worked. And Conscious Mother was available on Instagram and as a website. So it was like, boom, take this name. And it's been this journey of like, oh, can I even hold this name of Conscious Mother? And what does it even really mean? And so I've been really on this journey of healing the mother wound for most of my life, only to realize that like, as I felt complete with that, there's this whole new aspect, the masculine side of me that I get to heal. And that is trusting the masculine, trusting myself in my masculine that I can hold and contain me.
Yeah.
Because this is like a lot.
Yeah.
And I've had to really own my too muchness because I was too much my whole life. Too emotional, too intuitive.
Tense.
Yeah. And I'm intense and I'm super fierce. And so like at, the first part of my life, I was a mute. I didn't like talking. I hid. There was also aspects of me that wanted to dance and sing and act and be seen, but I wouldn't even give myself permission to do those things, to learn those things because I was so fearful of criticism.
Yeah.
And that was just like my father's voice, just always telling me that I was wrong and that I needed to be perfect. And so I molded myself in this box that he wanted me to be in. And I was dying inside. I was depressed from as long as I could remember, crying myself to sleep every night because I had to hold a certain faith.
Yeah.
He bred me and programmed me to be like, you have to smile because if people felt your sadness, they are sad too. So grit through it. And so I became this like puppet to people please my father. And it just, yeah, at some point I just couldn't contain it anymore. And in like 2014, I went to Burning Man for the first time. And I realized I was not following my yes. I didn't know what my joy was. And I didn't even know what presence meant. Yeah. Until that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious about like, how do you think that constructed version of you, how did that manifest in your body?
Oh,
Like is the body
good
stuck
question.
and
Yeah.
dream, right? So how, I mean, I have a lot of similarities, and not lot of a lot of similarities, but like that constructed constriction and not being able to be authentic, like how did that, where were the patterns in your body? What was showing up?
It showed up as lower back pain for like early teenage years. I thought I had a bad mattress. It's only to realize that I was suppressing all my emotions and it
The
was all
mattress,
really
goddamn mattress.
trapped in my pelvic bowl, right? The junk
Yeah.
bowl of emotion. And I always had like this chronic bronchitis going on in my lung, thick all the time, nasally. And it was all the grief that I was holding and I didn't know where to put it.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow.
It's amazing how much the body, like I'm trying to transition out of it myself, but like we just don't give the body the credit at all for like how intelligent it is. And a lot of people just act like it's a car and you're just like, I just get in it and then does this thing and it takes you places.
Yeah. I mean, we have the most intelligent technology in the known universe, all contained right here.
Yeah.
And we've been so programmed out of living in our animal and in our body and just existing from the neck up because we think this is the command center. When actually, like, it's our body is always there's like this intuition and this language that we get to learn now about our body and our energy so that we can really access like our fullest power, our divinity, our magic through it.
Yeah. So going back in your story with the birth of your son, you had some birth trauma.
Yeah. So this was really, I would say, the biggest milestone of healing for me was I had the most perfect pregnancy. I felt good the entire time. I had this plan of giving at least a natural birth. I wanted to give birth at home, but I got influenced by different people and their fear of it being our first time and ended up at Kaiser in LA and intervention after intervention. It was also like January 31st was this lunar eclipse. And I think after eclipses, like there's a whole rush of like people going into labor. And so it was Super Bowl and I was late and they just kept intervening with, and like I wasn't opening my cervix and I was given Pitocin to move it along. And then I was so exhausted and so tired, eventually had to say, okay, give me the epidural. At 5 centimeters, someone came to check my cervix and was like, hey, your amniotic sac is still intact, meaning it had sealed back up and was slowing down my progress. And I said, don't touch it. My doula isn't here. There's no one around. Everyone's tired. Please leave it alone until she comes back. At 7 centimeters, a different nurse comes in. She goes to check me and she pops it without asking. And then my whole, like everything goes into stress. Alarms start popping off and then they start unplugging me and dragging me away without like anything said. No.
Oh my gosh.
And
I'm listening to this, and my story is bang on with you.
yeah,
Did you get wheeled to the OR?
Mhm. Separated from my son's father at the time, and we get separated. I'm in it alone. They tie my arms down to two tables, and that's how I give birth. And so I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like I really thought in that moment that I had passed. And it was like this catalyst for understanding how fucked up the medical system is
Yeah.
and how they have ripped away the sacredness of giving birth and treating us like a number.
Yeah. That like this whole story that you're like, this is exactly how my birth with my son went. It was same thing. I wasn't dilating. He went into a distress. Same thing. Wheeled down to the OR. Strapped. Couldn't even hold my son after my partner at the time, my husband. He got to hold skin to skin. They brought him to my face for 5 seconds, and I cried. And they wheeled me away for 2 hours. 2 hours while I recovered, and I couldn't see my son. So that I feel you on that. That is an incredibly traumatic experience. And just hearing your story and mirroring that back to me, it makes me, yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, ours wasn't a cakewalk either. And it just makes me hearing how common of this thing is. I mean, it really hurts my heart to know how many more women go through something like this, which is something,
Yeah.
nothing more important than bringing another life into this planet. You know?
And it's so normalized to go
It's
into
medicalized. Yeah.
that most women don't even know that there's trauma involved. And even
Yeah.
in the act of birth, which is traumatizing because your body goes through such a different shape and opens up in a way that is just like is traumatizing. And I think like, as I work with clients, especially with fathers, helping them understand like, you're going to have a big transitional period because your partner no longer owns her body right now. It belongs to her, like your baby. Your baby thinks that it's just one consciousness with her and you. And so things are different. Things will change. And it's like we really need that masculine pole and pillar to hold us in that transition.
Yeah.
Or it feels really lonely.
Yeah, and it's true because in that protector, because when you get when you are in this divinely guided process of the way your body is, meant to give birth, and every woman is different, you're squeezed into a system where it's like a schedule, start time, end time. And if you don't fit into that schedule, they're going to rush the process. And then it becomes a completely, entirely like traumatic situation for a lot of women, as it was for me and as it was for you. So I think that, yeah, having that masculine like container there to hold and protect is something that is super important that a lot of women don't have in that process.
So what does that look like for both of you? Whether that's like before in pregnancy or after pregnancy, like for people that are listening, and maybe I'm just asking for my own self.
Yeah.
And what does that look like before and after? How do you want that energy to show up?
I love this question. So I'm going to go a little deeper here. I knew my marriage was over the moment they separated us. Done.
Wow.
He didn't advocate for me. He didn't protect me. I'm not safe.
Mm.
And then I recognized all the other times prior to that where, he could not show up and how it's transpired over the last 6 years in addiction and alcoholism and betrayal. So, uh, what comes up for me is I need to know that I'm held and I'm advocated for. And that I need to know that you're not going to freeze at a point of like heightened emotion or a big decision to play out. And so, I think what I've told recently, this is happening with a client of mine. And I told him, what she needs to know from you is that you're patient and that you've got her, and that no matter what, I know that I'm going to be safe. My baby's going to be safe in this transitionary time, and to honor me for such a big milestone in my life that is sacred, that is just moving from maiden to motherhood is such a big, big transition. And to understand that like it's going to take me about 3 years to come back into my body. Yeah.
Mm.
And to understand that in that container that you're holding, it is our most vulnerable space
Mhm.
of being pregnant and then giving birth. And then just, it is like, it is like falling apart and coming undone to become something else. It's like you literally have to transmute the maiden archetype and literally embody a new quality, which is the mother archetype. That is a massive transformation for a woman, like massive. And to almost have that bookend container of a masculine energy being like, maybe I got you all the way through it.
Mhm.
That is what women want in all of the thrashing and all of the uncertainty. We just want to know you're there.
Well, and,
Now, I want to
and,
know that you can hold my weather.
Can you weather my storm? It's we're
and
stormy.
there's some stuff that in retrospect, I feel hearing this could have done better. And some things I'm like, okay, I was in alignment in some areas.
Yeah.
Do you both feel that this is something that men know? Like, because I feel bad for not knowing it.
No, I think Alexander Hindley. I think that you know a lot more than the average man. I will say that you are more embodied in your masculine than the average man. No, I don't think men um know this. I think a lot of men are directionless. They've lost their sacred masculinity. I think that that's been taken away from a lot of men. That's a societal thing. That's a whole other podcast.
I
You
love,
two should start one.
yeah. It's like the role reversal.
Yeah.
The feminine being, the feminine being like basically pulled out of us,
Yeah.
told that we have to hold it on our own. That now we have to go and make our bread, and
Yeah.
then also hold the family and have all these societal standards to live up to. That it's emasculated you all from holding us because we've got this "I got it" mentality.
And I will say, in my marriage, I held that energy. I held a lot of masculine energy in my marriage, we're not married anymore, in my previous life in corporate, because I was conditioned to think that that's power, that's success, that is because that's the masculine way. That's the patriarchal system that we strive to be in. And I'm like, oh, I guess if I want power and I want success, I have to act in accordance with that box and that frame. And then I got really sick. And then my hormones got all screwed up. And then that was my body's way of being like, hello, 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 screaming at me.
Do you see this with your clients, Drea? Because we've had it with a few people on the podcast where women are called to their healing journey because they've been so rooted in the masculine energy that they're out of their feminine. So do you see that a lot? Okay, your ways raise your
But
hand.
same as for me. I worked 9 years in reality television. So working in an industry that required you to not even know the word no. I couldn't say no to anything because my job and my livelihood was threatened. I had to become a yes woman, working 16-hour days, first one in, last one out. Had to hold the schedules, had to know which every like crew members, lunchtimes, hotels, flights, like everything had to be held in this container by a woman. And so I am deprogramming that out of me of like really resting in my feminine. And it's been a journey. And many of my clients who are women have that same wound from, people working in the medical industry and all kinds of places, corporate, even in the spiritual healing realm of like women being, produced in a way that we have to like feel like we're alone in this. And
Yeah.
so it's learning to relax and find relief.
Mm, that's beautiful. And that's, gosh, I have so many parallels. Same. The very masculine and very like I have a question for you actually, as this is kind of floating up to my mind. When you in that transition from very masculine, I will say imbalanced masculine energy to really starting to embody your feminine, did you find that in that space you became a little almost overly feminine?
Totally.
Yes.
Tell me about
Tell
that.
us about that.
So like, let's talk about COVID.
I'm just a fly on a wall for this conversation where like I'm like
No.
I am so out of my depth on everything you're talking about, but I'm fascinated by it.
Just
So,
absorb, Alex. Just
yeah,
absorb.
I mean, that's feminine. It became such a big conversation of learning to relax into our flow and in our intuition. And what I recognized was like I was so in my masculine that after motherhood, really, I was just like, okay, fuck it all. Let's just let the divine be the divine, and I'm just gonna trust in the universe. And I still have that in me of like finding that trust and knowing that I am held. And as long as I'm like here with my vision and I know what that feels like, it's happening. And now like what I'm realizing was like, okay, I saw way too far left. And then like now like come back to where's the center, find my middle. And I will say like in this recent experience with the bridge, I was called forward in my leadership. And not only was part of the guardian coaches that kind of hold the container, I was also the captain. And so I really needed to put that production hat back on that I like beat out of me to track time, track people, hold a container, make sure everyone's being fed and nourished. And so I'm learning that those skills are still within me. I just get to love those parts of me again and do it in a way that's healthy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I have a question. This is from my buddy Chris called like right before the podcast. I told him I was talking to you as like she does embodied leadership. And that's like a thing that I'm working on with him. So he had a great question. He was one of our guests before and he was talking about exposing corporate shadow and stuff. So as a leader, how do you hold different versions or contrasting versions of truth and still lead yourself and others?
Great question.
That's not mine. It's my friends.
Oh, I
They gotta
love
get
that.
paid
I
for
was
it.
totally like, that's such a bomb question.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes up for me is compassion, is a recognition that we all have our own experience, our own lived experience, which translates into our own truth. And I think what we bring as embodied leaders is like finding that common denominator and bringing it back together and like how do we go from fear to love and knowing that like that's our journey and that journey is common in all of us. And so wow, that is I'm trying to think back on what has happened in the last 2 weeks because that is ever present. And what shows up in our rooms is everyone's shit is coming up and they all are these opposing and like different perspectives. And how do we weave those together? And it is like this recognition that we all have different perspectives. And what gets to happen is to find our center and be in our body so that we are not in reaction and we're in response.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's all about the somatics, right? It's like coming from a place of seeing it in the eyes of God, and that all perspectives exist. Yeah. Yeah.
So in your healing work, I know that you are a facilitator for psychedelic journeys. Do you want to venture into that? Because I have so many questions on the medicine that you're using. I've never. Okay, I'm going to shut up and let you kind of walk
Oh,
through
thank you
that.
so much. Yeah. So I started to, obviously, when you're young and you're experimental, I got into psychedelics very young, 17, 18 years old. And I think that even when it was recreational and reckless, I always had this shamanic like quality to me where I was like always holding space for people and kind of the babysitter and the one that always brought it like from like shadow to light. And I just know that it was so supportive in helping me with my depression, and always felt this pull. And so in 2020, when everything went down, I started to host retreats in Lake Arrowhead, California. Um, Single one-on-one retreats, people who just needed to get out of their situation and find some reprieve. And so just let them come to the forest, and started to introduce psilocybin to these experiences. And I was like, wow, I love this feeling. I love being able to support people in this way because I think that there's this like quality in me that's super grounding, and I'm actually not that like cosmic in a way. So this like level of being an anchor for people, of like, I got you, go where you need to go. I'm right here.
And I want to say we recognize that, and that's why we had you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It's grounded, embodied spirituality. So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
I call it practical magic. And so and so, I've experimented and sat with psilocybin, ayahuasca, and then in 2020 I was gifted the experience of 5-MeO DMT, which is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. And it showed up at my doorstep at my forest home, and it really was
Just the universe dropped off this package.
yeah. My friend was like,
Oh, okay.
I loved this model that they were using as facilitators. It's called the Danya model. And so it is donation based, and how they do it is they pay it forward to the next person. And so it was paid forward to me. And what I received in that was the first microdose, like a fraction of a, like, it's just, if you look at the measurement of what you're given and the profound effect it has on your body, it's insane. And so what I really love about 5-MeO DMT, or what is known as bufo, which is a toad, is it's a very somatic medicine. It's precise, the most gentle out of all of them, even though it might not look gentle, and quick. So it's efficient. And even with the small dose, my inner thighs started to quiver involuntarily. And what that signals is a trauma release, as like an antelope escapes a lion during a hunt. It shakes. And we don't do that as humans. We don't allow ourselves to fully complete an emotion. And so that's where that suppression happens in the body. And so I just, like, all the trauma that was happening during that birth experience left my body. And I was given a couple more doses, and the message I've always received from 5-MeO DMT specifically is new earth is here. And I go to the end of time, and they show me, they're like, "We did it. Look, you created heaven. We won, we won, we won. Now go tell the other." And so I don't even do this medicine ever, because I just feel like I am medicine now,
Yeah.
and the message is always the same. So I'm like, okay, I'm complete with you.
Yeah.
I know what my mission is. I know why I'm here, and the groundedness that I have, that I've learned through the bridge experience of just being able to hold and stay centered in the most, maybe what looks to be very chaotic.
Right.
So this medicine is a full somatic relief, while also and we're going to go there.
Let's go there.
Just a near death experience,
Yeah.
choosing
Okay.
death.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, so I was going to go there anyway. But thank you for bringing it up. So when you journey with Bufo, and I've heard, again, I have never done it. It's about a 15-minute window in our human understanding of time, right? And then when you,
Perfect for those people who got to get spiritual and then go get shit done.
Yeah,
It's our type of crowd.
it's business class.
yeah. So in this small window of time, is it like a movie reel? Like you're going through like all the, give me a visual of what that would feel like. Your subjective experience.
No two experiences are the
Yeah.
same. And
Okay.
even with it, like, yes, mine appear to be the same, but they all present differently. And so for me, like the second time I did it, I had this full timeline review of my life. And I saw every time I planted a seed, and I laughed at it. I was like, God, you are so fucking funny, you asshole. Like, of course you would have done this to me. Like, and then I was like, no, wait, I did this to myself. I chose this story, this timeline to share, to tell, to create, because it's so good. And I could see my mentors and like my teachers and like decisions I made. What the Bleep Do We Know, which is a documentary about quantum physics. I watched.
We just interviewed the guy's wife.
Oh, awesome.
Bonnie Peace, we just interviewed his wife from The Vow.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Mark. Yeah,
And
what the
so-
Bleep Do We Know? So yeah,
I planted all these seeds to show me that I am in fact a quantum being. That it was all like this synchronistic, beautiful tapestry that I weaved myself. And I thought it was so funny because the cosmic joke is amazing. And so that was like one experience I've had. Other times I've just been like very shamanic, chanting, praying, connecting with ancestors. I kind of forgot what your question was, but
no, it was what was your experience? And like, because I had heard too that it's like having a near death experience where you get to really move through a reel of information about your life and energy, essentially. Just to get downloaded super fast.
super fast. Two things I'll say is watch the movie Soul, and you know that they've done it before. So like they've completely like wrapped the DMT experience up into a beautiful movie that shows us what happens when we tap into our flow, that we can connect to God anytime.
Yeah.
And so when I work with my clients, I want them to have a baseline experience of what it feels to be connected with source, which is the quantum.
Yeah.
And then the muscle and the work that we get to do as humans is to tap into that, knowing that it's always available. It's always available to us. And so, yeah, it's really like facing our biggest fear. It's choosing death and getting on the other side of it and saying, oh, I'm an eternal being and I will always like come back, and it's safe.
You're saying like a choosing death to be reborn type thing.
This is a absolute rebirth experience. And after post Bufo, what, where I hope to lead my clients is like, if you've just chosen the scariest thing that all humans fear, which is death.
Yeah.
You can go out in the world and do anything. So
Mhm.
what impact are you here to make in this world?
So for the conscious mother, what does coexisting on this new earth look like?
Is exactly what I just said. It's like the impact that we desire to make. And what that means is we're all creators, artists, designers, architects, and we've been gifted this beautiful divine blueprint that only you have, and I have. And what is that magic that wants to be expressed through us? Because we have been conditioned in this prison planet to be slaves. Here's
Yeah.
your cubicle, here's your computer. This is when you clock in, this is when you go to lunch, and this is when you go home. Yeah.
Mhm.
So fill your weekends with alcohol
Yeah.
and
Num, num, num.
Yeah, to block out all the weird shit you absorb during the week.
Yeah.
and then only to find out that like there's so much, again, this divine intelligent technology that we have been gifted with that we get to share and like express in this world. So what is your artistic expression? And that can look like anything. Does that mean that some people really downplay the fact that they want to be just a mother? Oh, I just want to be a mom. That is the
No,
greatest gift.
that is like,
ever.
I have those days where I'm like, I don't want to run a business. I literally just want to be a mom today. And I flip back and forth because I have him 50%. So like, I go through these periods when I'm with him. I'm like, I just want to be you. I just want to be the best mom. That's it. And like, I literally forget about everything else. And then when he goes to dad, I'm like, okay, I'm now Natalie the healer. And it's a wild ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we all get to really get curious, discover and play with what that is and what that might be. And it could be so many things. It's a matter of just giving ourselves permission. Yeah.
And I love everything that you're saying. I'm going to push a little bit more on that. Like, how do you see that with people holding old paradigms as we're transitioning into the new, whether you're
Wow.
talking just the energy on the planet or the new, like, and earlier we were talking before the call of like why we can't let ourselves be healed. So I don't know if
Yeah.
they're different questions or the same questions. So like,
Yeah.
how do you see the paradigms interacting with each other?
Like
And
the two levels, you mean, or the different frequencies?
yeah, consider the old, like they're not make it like a political, but like a conservative wants to hold on to the things. And then progressives like things are changing, right? And I think it's just that balance between those two. But there's clearly going to be people that are like, the new earth's here, and other people are like, no, let's bring it back to what it was though.
Mhm. I love this. What I want to say is the contrast is required. We won't know if there isn't a contrast. If that old paradigm isn't existing at the same time, we'll never know that there's change. There's room for change.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we have been, another condition is God is heaven, God is good. When it's really God is all
Yeah.
good.
All of
And
the
it's
sacred,
all,
the
yeah.
profane, the struggle, the hardship, it's all God.
Mhm. And so without the contrast, without the darkness, we won't know. We can't feel the light.
Mm.
And so it's always going to exist. It's what we choose.
Mhm.
And with what we're choosing, like, how do we allow ourselves to step into that new reality and stop ourselves? I think sometimes we stop our own healing process, or we're
Yeah.
addicted to the struggle.
Oh man. That is definitely something I've been working on.
Yeah.
Is recognizing that like how long I've been addicted to drama. And what do I choose? Right now I'm choosing ease and in this relaxed state because that is the body that I am choosing to hold and embody in myself. And that's where I think like filling the gap between that is the work.
Do you find that like that is the nervous system capacity that you're learning to kind of open up to and somatically understanding where sabotage enters? Like understanding like you were saying, Alex, I'm addicted to the struggle. I'm addicted to this program. I'm addicted to the way it's always been. But do you find that it's like understanding your nervous system and the capacity and understanding the body and opening that up so that you can actually receive more joy and pleasure?
And go, yeah.
What does that look like? I love what we're touching on here.
To access that joy and pleasure is to accept the darkest parts of you, the anger, the sadness. Because if you can't have all emotions, accept and love all of them and give them a seat at the table, you can only really feel so much of that joy and happiness and pleasure. The deeper you choose to go, as above, so below, as within, so without, like deeper that we choose to like be with those emotions increases our capacity. And so in this bridge training, we are teaching people to really like dive into the depths of your trauma, of your struggle, of the darkest parts of you that you don't want anyone to see, to shine light on it and to invite love in and loving those parts of you so that like you can reach those highest heights of ecstatic joy and pleasure. Because
You
that won't do, right?
You gotta go deeper to go higher.
We've totally shamed joy and pleasure.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because I think like for me in my work, I teach a lot of women descension into the body. Like we have to descend to ascend, like this bypassing of the body to reach these blissful states. You can't. It's impossible. You have to encounter the cringy, darkest, ickiest, gross parts of yourself and pour love into them, like you said. And so how do you see bufo medicine, or do you use other plant medicines as well?
Yeah, I work with psilocybin and MDMA.
Okay.
Together. And so
That's the way that I was trained.
Oh, really? Yeah. So like the fun term of it is hippie flipping. And so what I love about the combination is the MDMA or sassafras, which is another heart opener in the same chemical compound. It keeps you in your body and in that joyful, unconditional love state. Because with psilocybin, as you know, on its own can take you in many directions.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people fear is like having that quote unquote bad trip. And with the bufo, I take people on 3-day journeys and we do bufo on the first day. And I call that demolition day. I'm just here like, let's take all the walls down, down, crack it open, heal the somatic self. And then in the second day, I introduce psilocybin with MDMA, very low dose. But anytime you work with me, it doesn't feel like a low dose. I think I'm a big amplifier. So what happens is you're really accessing healing through joy. And I think that's like a forgotten medicine. It's like, we can actually make this fun.
My spirit animal is a party dragon, and I heal through laughter.
Yeah. Alex on Instagram is Party Dragon Dojo.
Just started following you, so
Okay, I saw that. Okay.
If you notice creepy comments, it's just me.
No.
But I want to go back to that because I think it's true that people, especially in the spiritual realm, in the healing industry, people are so addicted to healing themselves to fix themselves, and they don't know how to heal through love and joy. And that's such a, it's like it's like a wound and you're always picking at this wound and you're ripping off the scab. And I'm just like, leave the scab alone. It's going to heal. Can we can we redirect and find the joy in your healing? So what do you see? And this is one of Alex and I's biggest question on this podcast. Like, what do you see flawed in the spiritual industry right now?
Great question.
Guy.
Sir Shaman Bingo.
Oh, bingo.
Yeah, Sir Shaman Bingo.
Sir Shaman Bingo. Hell of a name.
His Sir is his salutation, Shaman is his occupation, and Bingo is his name else.
Amazing.
So let's get into it. The
Let's
dark
do it.
side of this like healing industry, so many levels and layers of it. But what I would first say is bypassing, and that whole part of ascension and descension. Yes, it's like staying up here in the ethereal realm, toxic positivity, and forgetting that in order for us to truly ascend is to love and accept even the darkest parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
to not wrong or shame it, because there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's all. And another piece of that bypassing part is, oh man, it's like all these masks that we wear of what we think it should look like, and forgetting like the roots of it all and where it actually comes from. And so, yeah, I just feel like a big part of like darkness that we're experiencing is a lack of groundedness in it. And I've been thinking about it a lot, where there's so many spiritualists out there creating businesses and marketing it in a way where it's like, who's going to make the most money? How do you live the most abundant life? How do you live with like grace and ease? But like the why is missing.
The heart's missing.
Yeah, the why is like, what impact are we making? Whose lives are we changing? Who has access to this healing? Because right now it's really imbalanced of like who gets to heal and who doesn't.
There's like, it's like, I've been saying it for months, or maybe even a year. Like, it's like spiritual gentrification. Like,
Yeah.
the old community I was in bumped up the prices crazy high, and you're like, how does a normal person get into heal themselves now? Like,
And it's really sad right now, because if you look at, to actually be healthy on this planet, it costs a lot of money. Like the water filters, this is stuff
organic food from the shit that they put in it. Like,
or just to access like services that you would provide or that I would provide. Like, it's not cheap to heal.
No.
And this is where it's becoming this spiritually egoic inflation of the programs, and these people are, I don't know, it's getting out of control. And then how do people access this? Like, why are you doing this in the first place? Like, the why.
Yeah. And I've been, if I'm completely honest, I've been in this limbo stage, because this conundrum of a question of how do I create access and also take care of myself
Exactly.
without running myself into depletion.
And that right there, it's like, that's where I still feel like we're still plugged into the system. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I have to make a certain amount of money to exist in a healthy frame for myself and my son, right? But then how do I keep my prices without overrunning myself? And it's a fine line to dance on right now.
And, if anyone is having this question as well, is like, I work on a sliding scale. And if I connect with you and you reach out to me, I know that we're meant to work with each other, and I make it work. And it's like, I'm going to cry, but like, it's purely because I want to be of service,
Yeah.
I would do this for free if I could. I
Yeah.
really do. And like, I volunteer my time for Bridge. That's like on my own dime, my own time, because I know how important it is to be in that room, to show up for people who really require to be wrapped in unconditional love.
And what an honor it is to do.
It's such an honor, to witness transformation. Why I'm just so in love with this work is to see people grow and to find themselves and to come home.
What a privilege. It's such a privilege to watch people transform.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's so
I do it like a peeping Tom from their blinds and stuff like that.
You're what?
I do it like a peeping Tom, like outside of their window and stuff. Watching people transform. I've gotten a few restraining orders and I need to change the way that it helps people heal.
I really need to get to know you more, Alexander.
I've got a fucked up sense of humor. That's
Yeah, it
what
does.
you need to know.
There's always in our podcast, I'm like, where's he going to drop the inappropriate joke? Let's go. But he's the
Yeah, like-
only person that can like drop humor and clear a room in such a beautiful way that not many can do.
Humor is so much required.
Powerful.
Especially because you see a lot of weird shit and it is sacred and it is beautiful and profound and somebody is having this experience. It's also fucking weird sometimes. Like if you just dropped in out of nowhere, you'd be like, all these people are shaking and screaming in a room. Like, and it's a weird process, but like you gotta laugh. And I know there's so many men in the space that like, they'll talk about doing this and doing that. And nobody talked about like, how about fucking laughing? How about just like dancing and being a fucking crazy person, like it's all got a place. It's just, you got to know how to use it.
Great.
Timing too. Yeah. Drea, I want to talk a little bit about ancestral healing because that seems to be a big part of your process.
Yeah.
And then I want to, after that, a little bit about the magic, which is probably when you do ancestral healing, it really does open you up to that. So,
And if we're pushing on your time, let us know.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm good.
okay, good.
I'm loving this.
Keep going.
So, let's go back to Bufo. So, people have said that Bufo is 15 years of therapy in 15 minutes. What I believe, with intention, it is 15 lifetimes in 15 minutes. And so this is healing generationally. 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, and we're in the middle. And right now we're at this beautiful pinnacle time of becoming generational code breakers. We are the cycle breakers. And in one generation, and it doesn't matter how old you are right now. I'm working with people in their 60s. I'm working with people in their 20s, and they're all choosing to heal. And with that pure intention, it's rippling through time and space, right?
Yeah.
Through the quantum.
Mhm.
And how we do that is with really just understanding, one, where we come from. We come from nature. And nature has a cycle, a season, and a rhythm. And when we start to slow down to the wisdom of nature again, this is how we can heal our ancestral lineage, because we have been put in this technological space of like bigger, better, faster now.
Yeah.
But that's not how our ancestors lived.
No.
And we do get to find the balance between, our ancestral wisdom and what we've been gifted with in this advanced technological world where we can hang out from different parts of the world and have this conversation. It's both. It's a yes and, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing that we are our ancestors' wildest dream is all they want for us is to live our life happy, free, and fully expressed. And so everything that has been robbed from us through religion and politics and society,
Empires.
empires, it's about reclamation.
Yeah.
And so in that reclamation, we get to remember who we are. And that's why I love psychedelics, is because it's this big reminder of like, oh my gosh, I'm a particle floating through this vast universe. And it's so big, yet so finite and small. Like it's all of it. And so, yeah, this for me, my ancestral healing at first was really going back into my heritage and connecting with the Babaylons, which is the Filipino like shaman, and also like understanding where my religious trauma growing up as a Catholic came from. And my dad would call me bruja, and in Spanish that means witch.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
as a child, I misinterpreted what he was saying to me, and I thought he was calling me stupid because of the way he was saying it.
Ah,
And he would be like, "Stop." And it was a shaming of my intuition of what I deeply knew. And it was wild. It was only like a few years ago where that clicked for me, was like, oh, I have been a witch this entire time. And it's been shamed out of me and the women in my lineage because it's been made wrong, right? We have coming back to the very beginning of this conversation of, if you don't fit in this box, you don't belong.
Mm.
And so in my ancestral healing is like really taking ownership
yeah.
of my unique ability to feel and to love and to hold. And, shamanic practices, the 4 basic principles of that is storytelling, prayer, movement, and stillness when done in community. And so a big piece of this, and why I love Bridge so much, is like, we're healing in community. Medicine, not. It's all like that medicine's inside of us, and we can conjure that up anytime.
Beautiful.
And I love, because you're pointing towards like the medicine is a reminder of who you are at your nature, not a thing of escaping. And I think there's so many people that have their idea of marijuana and recreational drugs and everything like that. And when used as a tool to go inward, it can be quite profound. But if you're looking at it from like a recreational thing, or some people are just truly worried about losing control because of who they think they are. And I would say that most Americans should have a psychedelic experience, like with a great teacher, every 10 years at least.
Imagine if all our politicians had a psychedelic
I
experience.
would love it.
What would be like the world that we need?
Like the two opposing forces have to do it together.
Ayahuasca together.
And it should be like documented so we can all just like watch their journey on
Yeah, I would love that.
That would
On another way, I was journeying with a friend once, and he had an idea where we were in it, and he goes, "What if we just set up a camera, but you didn't have you couldn't hear what we were talking about, and then you would just film people journeying?" And you're like, "Oh, that'd be pretty fucking funny too." But just like, watch this person dancing and they're crying, and this one's humping a pillow. What the fuck is going on? And imagine if it was like a 15-minute bufo thing, like it's perfect for social media.
If I had a camera in this home, you would be like, wow, they're highly entertaining. Yeah, it's just, I think that's, and back to your question, like that's where magic comes from.
yeah.
And it's remembrance of our ancestral wisdom. And in order to access that, we get to heal our ancestral wounds.
Is there any other way that you would have your clients access magic? And I always want to preface this because like people think that magic is like you have a wand and you're like, phew, and like you're laser beaming like energy out of this wand and it's like transmuting.
Most men feel their wand is pretty magical, Natalie.
But like when I
Spoiler
think when I think of magic, I think let's actually define magic.
Yeah. Have you read the book Existential Kink?
No,
My doctor, Carolyn Miss, I believe is her last name.
Okay. I love
So Existential Kink is the perfect book if anyone is trying to get into shadow work and understanding the polarities of creation, which is light and dark, masculine and feminine. And the thing that stood out the most to me in this book was magic is a series of positive, synchronistic moments. And what that tells me is magic happens in our presence. Present is in our presence.
Yeah.
That's when magic is gifted to us. Yeah. It's like, how aware can we be of our surroundings, of our environment, of our relationships? And in that awareness is the alchemy, right? This is what breeds joy.
Yeah. And it's in that present moment. It doesn't matter what you are doing. There is magic there. You can, like, I go through these little magic moments in my day where I talk to my plants and I bless them. And I literally, like, I love you, and I pour. It's like, because I'm so present with the plant, or I'm doing dishes like this. For me, this is what magic is. It is accessing the depth of the present moment in such joy, and that you are so open that magic is everywhere.
Mhm.
And you have to choose it, though. Like, you really have to choose it.
Yeah.
And our programming prevents us from choosing it.
There is a word that I really love and am attached to right now, and it's savoring.
Savory?
Savoring. Savoring.
Savory.
Can I savor in this moment? Can I expand time and only be present with every sensation that's happening in my body that reminds me of my aliveness?
Yeah. Even when it's not so great.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Even when it is like uncomfortable moments, like it takes.
But if you weren't alive, you couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Right. But to your point, back to your point, Drea, like the capacity to hold your discomfort. It eventually get to a point where you're holding your discomfort and you're like, okay, this is magic too.
Yeah.
Okay, this is magic too. Because if I didn't have this, I wouldn't know the gold on the other side.
The contrast.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love that. I love that we just defined magic in the most beautiful way.
I'm just so honored like, even if I didn't say a word this podcast, I think the only reason why I did was my own ego of like, part of my podcast too. I want to say something. But if I just listened to you both the whole time, like how profound and wonderful it is to witness both of you in your power and your knowledge and just how you share your life. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just like, I followed you for a year and I'm just like in awe of you. Like, I've had so many parallels in my journey and situation that I just like, I really adore. I just adore you. And I've really loved watching you. And I'm just really grateful to have you on this podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that we want to open up? Anything else?
I'd have different notes. We'll see. No, I mean, like we just, it was, how do you get better than what it was?
Even magic was just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So Drea, where can people find you? What are you doing? What are you serving up for the world?
Thank you. You can find me at consciousmother.com.
Yep.
Or at conscious.mother on Instagram. Right now, I am in this like discovery phase of exactly what that looks like as an offering. And I do one-on-one coaching. That coaching looks like using earth medicine to help access that remembrance and working from that point of integrating that remembrance into your everyday, where we are creating magic in every moment. And so I help many entrepreneurs, parents, and light workers access their fullest expression and how that then translates into their impact, into their embodied leadership. Bridge is happening in Australia in October, and then we're back in Austin in January. So I'm excited for those to be coming up soon.
And you're currently in Austin, right?
I'm currently in Austin.
Okay.
And soon, in the next year, I hope to be hosting my own bridges. And so I'm in this full-fledged apprenticeship of learning from my mentors exactly how to hold these containers. And so I'm really excited about that.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah. Congrats. That's so exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And we always have the one question. If there is one smidget bit of information or little practice that you could give our audience to do, what would that be?
Like 5 to 10 minutes a day. That would
I would bring them back to themselves.
Yes.
Oh, I see. So this isn't like, this is a good practice while also in the midst of being triggered or holding
I'm listening.
spot. Yeah. And I learned this from my mentors, and it's something that we get to pass on to far and wide. And it's called maintaining and holding your dignity. And when we're holding our dignity, that is our length, our width, and our depth. So even in moments of trigger, we don't collapse. We maintain and hold ourselves in our dignity in that queen king state and say, I can still have my emotion and keep my length, my width, and my depth. And so this is an all day practice of like recognizing and realizing, am I in a collapsed state or am I holding myself up?
That speaks to me because I do Aikido, and that's a big part of it. So like if you're trying to do Aikido and your posture's not right, oftentimes your partner will just when you go into alignment. So
Boom.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'm definitely going to practice that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's Alex for a cool state, Yeah.
where to embody my.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Drea, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was just such a lovely conversation.
What an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, so much. And for all our listeners out there, go follow Conscious Mother. She's doing incredible things. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Drea.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Huffing Spirit Podcast. Remember, you are your own teacher. Take what resonates and leave the rest. For more info, follow us on Instagram at Huffing Spirit Podcast and subscribe on Spotify or iTunes. Bye for now.